to the log, but that's okay. If you think of anything as we move along here, feel free to go ahead and enter that into the question log. So before we do get started, I just wanted to mention that we are recording our call, and the call will be on our YouTube page so that you can find it there in case you want to circle back or share it with somebody else. And also, you could go right to the YouTube page itself and search for GSNEO YouTube channel, which, by the way, there's some really great videos there, a lot of different varying topics, and you'll probably find several that are of interest. The other thing, lastly, we just want to let everyone know that everyone's lines are muted in order to minimize background noise. But if you'd like to be unmuted, just raise your virtual hand. And we really do hope that you take that into consideration, because when you raise your virtual hand, we'll see that pop up on my screen, and then I'll unmute your line so that you can chime in, and we love to hear from you. So please feel free to do that at any time throughout the call. And before we go any further, I'd just like to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Kim Klima, and I am the Director of Volunteer Support and Services. I've been Girl Scouting since about the 2nd grade, and I've been with the council as a professional Girl Scout for the last 15 years. As a volunteer, I led 2 troops for my daughters who are now grown. As a matter of fact, interestingly, as we speak, my youngest daughter is currently at her troop meeting. She leads a troop now, and it's exciting to see the next generation of Girl Scouts coming up behind us. So I'm really honored to be here with you this evening, and I do want to thank you so much for calling in and so much for stepping up. And then before we go any further, I do want to let my colleagues have a moment to introduce themselves. So I think, Barb, we have a screen here for you. I think we have you on the line. You want to go ahead and say hi?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. My name is Gloria Zinn, and I'm the school manager of Human Support Services. I've been with Girl Scouts professionally for a little over 3 years. And prior to joining the GSNEO staff, I was a volunteer, just like you, for about 20 years. From that time, I served as a group leader for a group of girls from kindergarten through 12th grade, and I can't tell you how exciting it is to see the women they've become, and I'm so proud of them, and it's it's incredible to see what achievements uh, they have accomplished and the successes they've had, and I know. A lot of it's attributed the um, to the Girl Scout program, and it makes me proud to have served as their leader and now professionally. So, also during those years as a volunteer, I served as a service unit organizer, an event coordinator, SUD, and an adult learning facilitator. But one of the things I've always enjoyed the most is working with volunteers, and I'm in awe of everything that you do for the girls and adults in your communities. And I love supporting you as you help girls achieve their dreams. And I look forward to seeing how you'll discover, connect, take action as you continue to develop your leadership skills and spread Julia to bring for girls. So Sherry's here with me, and she's going to tell you a little bit about her background.
Hi, everybody. Again, this is Sherry Johnson. I'm the recruitment coordinator here at the Girl Scouts. Well, unfortunately, I was only in Girl Scouts as a young adult for only 2 years. I only made it to juniors. But how much I loved Girl Scouts, and I still do, I think it's the greatest experience any little girl could have. I've been here for over 10 years now, working in a couple departments. I kind of started out in the fund development department, and I moved on to membership and volunteer services for a few years. And now, as they call me, I'm the background check lady. I've been processing background checks with adult volunteers now for over 4 years, making sure our volunteers are background checked and approved. Um, I've had the pleasure of speaking and meeting with a lot of wonderful volunteers, and I hope to meet some of you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I just want to mention that if you have any trouble hearing, I know you guys sounded a little far away, so I don't know if I'm the only one. No one else mentioned having any trouble. So just, making sure that we're speaking close to our mics is going to be really helpful. But thank you, Barb and Sherry, for joining us this evening. And then also I would mention we have currently right now so far 4 volunteers on the line. And so I want to welcome each of you, and we're always excited to hear your stories. If you want to put some information about yourself in the question log, which you can find on that menu on the right side of your screen, tell us a little bit about yourself. When did you get started as a volunteer? At this time, in your life, maybe you were a Girl Scout growing up, and then also if you have any burning questions, and maybe you can even tell us, if you wouldn't mind, how did you hear about the WOW Wednesday chat calls, and do you have any suggestions for topics in the future? So that's a lot of information. Any part of that, if you want to put that in the question log, we'll take it all. And again, thank you very much. So tonight we're talking about engaging families. And I could tell you honestly, after 20 plus years of Girl Scouting, my number one biggest tip for new volunteers is to involve your parents. Involve them, and involve them early. Make them a vital part of the experience. You might hear other people talk about wanting parents to leave the meeting place and not hang around. But I would tell you, especially our Daisy troops, that parents sticking around is a very good thing. Nonetheless, despite the benefits, which there are many, and we'll talk about that in just a moment, many leaders will tell you that engaging families can be one of the biggest challenges in running a troop. And so maybe we could talk for a minute why that might be the case. Why do you think it might be difficult to engage families in their daughter's Girl Scout experience? Does anybody have a suggestion or an idea? Oh, sorry. So Barb, what do you think, would you say was some of the more challenging reasons why people don't or they tend to shy away from engaging families?
I think sometimes you have to get their confidence in what they're doing, or they feel like the girls excited them for this time.
Barb, we're having a really hard time hearing you, Barb, and I don't know if it's just me. If you guys, I know Lakeisha mentioned, see, Terry just said I can't really hear you either. I know that you're speaking and I hear a word every now and then, but really can't truly hear you. You might want to switch over to telephone and give us a call back on the phone instead.
Okay.
And we'll give that. Okay, thanks. So in the question log, Lakeisha said that she heard of Girl Scouts when her oldest joined, she was 14 years old, or 14 years ago. So now she has her youngest wanting to join. So we're going to start over again. And Lakeisha, I'm excited for you because there's a lot of new tools and supports for leaders today that I wish I had when I was running my troops, before. And it would be really interesting to talk to you later to see what you think about, your experience then versus your experience now. I can only imagine. So thanks for sharing that. The one thing I would say that people do mention having such a difficult time, or they do find challenging when they're trying to engage volunteers, is just even trying to figure out what they should ask their parents to do. And so I know that sometimes that could be a challenge, and you got to plan ahead a little bit and kind of know how you're going to utilize people, and also knowing what to say or how much is too much to ask parents to do. So sometimes we feel a little shy and asking people to help out because we feel like we might be imposing on them. Another reason is people might feel like, they're not sure that that family or that, that other adult is going to come through and actually do what they said they were going to do. And so it requires that we, take a risk and that we put some trust out there and relinquish a little control, which can be hard sometimes too. But also, I think in our mind, we think that our parents expect that the leader's going to do everything. And so we feel like that's what's expected of us. And so we really need to live up to that expectation. And, actually, there's a lot of very beneficial reasons to get families involved. And so despite all those things that make it a challenge, it's still really worth it to move forward. So I think, Barb, you called back in on your phone. I can see. Let's give that a shot. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about some of the benefits of engaging families.
Okay, can everybody hear me now?
Yes, yeah, that's much better. Thank you.
Is that much better? I don't know why my microphone's not working.
Oh, no.
But, so, the benefits of engaging families, there are so many, and, girls benefit, leaders benefit, and parents benefit. Girls benefit because, it's an opportunity for parents and guardians. They know their girls. They know their daughters better than anyone, and, they can provide insight to the troop leaders when there are difficulties going on, or anything, what their daughters prefer and that sort of stuff. And the best thing is that when a girl's parents are involved, they remain in the program longer, and that means staying on the path to leadership development and seeing what these girls do as they become older in Girl Scouting is just a remarkable thing. Mm-hmm. So, and leaders benefit because they're building a strong troop committee, and they're able to widen the possibilities and the opportunities to the girls, because when they're engaging the parents bring a lot of different skills and talents. For instance, maybe you have a parent who's a nutritionist, or a parent or, family member who works on cars and, has an auto mechanics business. They can teach and really help develop programs for the girls.
Right.
So I think it's really important for leaders to, be open with their parents and expect involvement, and also, share what their expectations are. Mm-hmm. And parents benefit, leaders also, it helps leaders from burning out faster.
That's so true.
And, parents, they just become closer. They're helping to make those memories, and, it gets them out of their daily lives, and, when they have the opportunity to work with the girls, and not just their daughters, but with the whole troop. And, it's just, making a richer experience for everybody. Absolutely. When the whole family participates.
Yeah, and I that's a really good point too, because I know that we do say parents a lot, and parents are great. Not only mom, but dad too, and even maybe older siblings. But, in truth, any caring adult can join in. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors. Maybe somebody at your local church who maybe is retired and would really like to do something that had an impact. And so, we don't want to just limit your thinking to parents, although we do refer to parents quite a bit. But just always remember that, this is not an exclusive organization. Anybody can join, and everyone is welcome. So you might be wondering about becoming, what do you do if your parent, you're successfully engaging your parents and you want them to participate, what are the requirements of those parents, and how do you get them to become approved volunteers? What does that mean, and what are the requirements? So Sherry's going to talk with us just a little bit now about the steps of completing that criminal background check and becoming approved, and what that really means for our volunteers today.
Okay. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me okay?
We can, Sherry, thanks.
Okay. So you might be wondering, what does approved volunteer mean? This means that all approved volunteers within our council are members of Girl Scouts of the USA and have completed the criminal background check, and that they have selected or been assigned a volunteer role. When discussing parent involvement with the families, remind them that the safety of the girls is the most important consideration in the appointment of a volunteer. In order to safeguard the girls in our care, GSUSA have developed a system for conducting criminal background checks on all volunteers and all paid staff. Volunteers must complete and pass a criminal background check every 3 years, and staff every year. Inform the caregivers that they will be asked to enter their name, social security number, and date of birth. And remind them also that Girl Scouts does not access this information. Assurance, our background company that runs the check, uses this information to determine eligibility for the volunteers for this organization. They're looking for criminal history, and we do not look for credit checks. We do not run credit checks. And you can also please emphasize to them, parents or the caregivers, that their social security number should be used for no other purpose other than to make the process of conducting a background check search more accurate. Also, another thing to remind them that they will receive a unique link to complete the background check via email. And that link will be coming from applicantdirect@assurance.com. I think that's all I here. Okay. Also, to remind them to check their spam folders. Sometimes the emails get dumped into the spam folder, and they're looking for them in the regular email and they don't find it. So have them check that spam folder to be sure that it's there. And that this information with Assurance is very sensitive software, so it's time sensitive. So once they start the process, which should only take no more than about 15 minutes at the most, they need to begin the process and then end it. They can't walk away from it, come back later. Once you start, you've got to finish. So that's very important to remind them of that. If that does happen and they happen to have to walk away from it and have to start over, then they're going to have to give me a call. And they can give me a call at 330-983-0427, or they can feel free to email me at sjohnson@gsneo.org. And that way I can send them a new link so they can complete it. Okay? Just another note that the email, that if if they don't open it or they just ignore the email for whatever reason, or the process stays in limbo, because we have to get them background checked and get them approved. So if we don't complete that background check, then there's they're kind of stuck there until that's done, and we can't get them approved.
Right.
Does anyone have any questions?
Now would be a great time to enter any questions that you may have into the question log. I'm not seeing any pertaining to background checks right now, but let me just confirm some of the things that you said, or kind of reiterate, because I think it's really important. First of all, Girl Scouting is a safe place, and parents expect that from our organization. I think that when a parent sends a girl to a troop meeting, there's an expectation that she's safe, and I think that families count on the Girl Scouts to make sure that that is true. And so we take that very seriously, which is why, like Sherry said, it's so very important that every volunteer, every adult who is showing up at your troop meetings, if it's more than once, should be an approved volunteer. Because when we expose little girls to adults repeatedly, they have an assumption that that's a safe person. And so maybe those parents, they don't think of themselves as fully fledged volunteers, but they show up a lot. And so if they do, they need to complete this process. Most certainly if they're driving on any field trips or anything like that. So completing the process is simple. They go online to gsneo.org, click on volunteer today, and the system will walk them right through. And like Sherry said, when they get to that screen where they have to complete their information, that information is very secure. It goes to Assurant. We don't keep it. So we don't check the credit. Just like, you know, I think, Sherry, I think that's really important for people to hear too, because they might be a little, you know, they might have some things in there they don't need everyone to know about, you know, and the reality is we don't look at that. Our background check vendor looks at that, and we only get flagged about, you know, criminal issues. And so we don't check credit, right?
That's correct. We do not check credit at all. Only just the criminal history was reported. That's it.
Yeah, and so, you know, if that volunteer goes through and is successfully completes the process, then they'll be appointed into the volunteer role, and they'll start showing up on your roster as in that volunteer role. And so the different volunteer. Oh, I also want to point out, Barb and I actually both put Sherry's information in the chat log, because like she said, the link that comes out from Assurant, it is a unique link. It can only be used one time. And even if the person stops in the process and they wait too long, they can't go back and reuse it. So they have to call Sherry to get a new unique link to do their background check. And so that's how you would contact Sherry. But if all else fails, just tell them to call the Girl Scouts and ask for Sherry. She's the only Sherry on our staff, and everybody knows who the background check lady is. So, you know, Sherry's very efficient. She's very professional. She is very quick to get you whatever information that you need and help you on your way, and help your parents too, so you can feel assured that they're going to have excellent service if they call. And then when they start showing up on your roster, then you should know that they have completed the background check. But if you don't see them showing up and they said that they did it, chances are good that there's a problem. And so even if you want to call Sherry, she can let you know whether or not that was successfully completed. So are there any questions at all for Sherry at this time? It looks like you made it real clear, Sherry. So I don't see any questions here about background checks. But I would like to go ahead and thank you very much for that information. And so let's go ahead and talk about, we set all these volunteer opportunities, and I wanted to just make sure that everybody knows what those opportunities really are. And so on your screen right now, you can see all the different roles that you can have as a Girl Scout volunteer. So when we build a new troop, when a new troop is formed, it is automatically populated with a handful of volunteer jobs. And those jobs really kind of fall into two different categories. They're either primary or secondary. So by, you know, when you're making your families part of this process, they're going to need to choose one of these roles when they go online and want to become a volunteer. And the difference is the primary volunteers are really the volunteers who are mostly responsible for the troop. And so some of the things that troop leaders might do, you know, they're the ones that are planning with the meeting. They're the ones that are, you know, welcoming the girls when they arrive, and really, you know, leading and actually giving direction and oversight to the secondary volunteers as well. There's training for primary volunteer positions, and there's an expectation that the primary volunteers are also staying engaged with the other volunteers in the community, as well as the council staff members. Secondary roles are still very important to helping troops run well, but they, in a sense, report to the primary volunteers and get their instruction and direction from the primary volunteers. But most of those jobs are self-explanatory. I don't know, Barb, do you want to maybe take a moment and just explain the difference between the primary roles? Because we could see troop leader, which we're all familiar with, but then there's a couple other ones too. And so how do people kind of choose which role how do they know which role to pick?
Well, I think it's important to know your skill set and know where your talents lie. So, you know, some people, they can do it all, and they want to, you know, figure out the badge work and the crafts and the events and everything. And, you know, so I think that's, you know, a lot with the troop leader. People that choose to be the troop leader, they're the you know, top banana in the troop, and they're going to really help the girls decide what they're going to do, and really make sure that things are girl led. And the troop admin, that's somebody who, you know, maybe you have a parent who says, you know what, I really want to help, I want to be involved, but you know, I'll do the background stuff. I'll make sure that, you know, the rosters are taken care of, and the all the paperwork is done, and I'll keep track of the girls' badges and the awards that they earn. And then you might have somebody who says, you know what, I'm really good at planning activities and events, and that's somebody who might choose to be the program guide. So it's really looking for where our parents shine and where our volunteers shine.
Right, right. Yeah, good. So, you know, I know today a lot of times people shy away from being the troop leader, quote unquote. It seems like such a big job. But maybe if they divide up the work into the behind the scenes administrative stuff and then the girl programming stuff and tackle it that way as a team, it's a little less intimidating for some people. And so, and again, the secondary roles are just as important, although they're a little more self-explanatory, I think. Now, let's take a closer look at those primary volunteers because, you know, we talked a little bit about the responsibilities, but primary volunteers are the lead volunteers. They're the ones primarily responsible. They give direction to the secondary volunteers, and every troop has to have at least 2 primary volunteers in order to run. And you could have more than 2, but you have to have a minimum of 2. Also, at least 2 need to be unrelated female adults. So let's say a husband and wife team wanted to start a troop, that's fine, but you still have to find another primary adult to help you that's not related and is a female. Also, every primary volunteer can only have 1 primary role. So you might think, well, I am kind of the paperwork person, but I'm also the leader, and you may be tempted to pick 2 of those primary roles, but you shouldn't do that because you'll trick the system into thinking that there's 2 adults when really there's only 1, and then you'll be out of compliance, which you don't want to do. So let's take a look now at the secondary volunteers and see how that differs a little bit. Secondary volunteers, well, they're not required for a troop to start. Again, they're very critical. Many hands make light work, right? So in order for a troop to participate, yeah, you know, you don't want to have to do all this stuff all by yourself, right? So in order for a troop to participate in the cookie sale, for instance, there has to be a product sales manager. And if you haven't already identified someone for that role, now would be a good time to do that. It's a great place to put your parents to work. The primary volunteer can serve in a secondary role also, but we really don't recommend it. We recommend that everybody finds 1 role to serve in so that no one person is overextended. The secondary volunteers report to and get direction from the primary volunteers, so they cannot customize or make any changes to the schedule in the volunteer toolkit. Only the primary volunteers can do that. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about when I say volunteer toolkit, then you're really missing out on some big stuff here, because the volunteer toolkit is probably the #1 most helpful tool that is available to volunteers today. And that's what I was mentioning in the question log to Lakeisha when she said that her older daughter joined 14 years ago, and now she's starting a troop for her younger daughter. And I just, I'm so interested to hear like what you think, Lakeisha, in terms of your support now versus then, because the volunteer toolkit really makes planning and communicating with your parents much easier. But only the primary volunteers can make any changes to the plans in the toolkit. Everyone else, including parents and secondary volunteers, can view it only, which is still really helpful. Okay, here's something else to know. You might have parents in your troop that want to go on field trips, but they also want to help at meetings and they want to drive girls as well. They don't have to pick all of the positions. Really, they're qualified to do any of those things, regardless of the role that they choose. But by giving them some titles to choose from, it really helps put people into a lane so that they know what's expected and what their role is in the troop. That doesn't mean that they can't go on field trips if they're a helping hands volunteer. So everybody gets the same background check, and they're all qualified to help in all of those ways. We do add one of each of those roles to your troop automatically for volunteers for adults to pick. But the helping hands role, there's 5 of those. And so a lot of times we find that's very popular. It's almost kind of like your miscellaneous job title. So a lot of parents like to choose that. If you ever wanted to add another, like let's say that you wanted 2 people in your troop to be field trip drivers, you can just ask your staff member to increase the number of field trip drivers in your troop, and then it would open that spot up for someone else to pick it on the opportunity catalog. So if I'm going too fast or saying things that maybe don't make sense to you, it's okay. We fully expect that you probably have questions, and we want you to ask those questions and not feel like everybody knows everything except you, because it's probably not true. And I learn something new every day myself, so don't feel
I was
bad.
just going to say, it's amazing how much we learn on these calls
Yeah,
from the volunteers.
absolutely, absolutely. And Lakeisha just said, 14 years ago, it was communication via telephone calls and face-to-face meetings. Now it's all technology like emails and computers, rarely face-to-face or phone calls, very different. And I would say there's a lot of truth to that. But also, what would Girl Scouts be without socialization? So we still have a lot of face-to-face opportunities as well, and we'll probably always will. But yeah, you're right. That's one of the big changes. One of the things that I do want to talk about, since you brought up communication, Lakeisha, is that, adults want to give back to their communities, but in return, they need to be guided by a friendly and communicative leader. So, yes, the girls are very proud when their parents help out, and those are really great things, but we need to make sure that when we ask people to step up, that we are engaging them and that we're keeping the lines of communication open. And like you mentioned, Lakeisha, in the old days, quote unquote, it was a lot of talking on the phone and meetings. And now we have things like, texting and Instagram and Facebook pages and all those really great things. So again, as a reminder, there's great communication tools in the volunteer toolkit, but also many volunteers, many troops have their own Facebook page. They have their own Instagram groups and stuff like that, and those work really well also. If you wouldn't mind, Barb, don't you think it would be interesting to see who is aware of the volunteer toolkit and maybe utilizing that resource already?
I'd love to know who's using it.
Yeah. So maybe you guys
let us know in the questions.
Yeah, just maybe pop it in the question log and let us know. Do you know about the toolkit, or is it new to you?
Do you love it? Are you learning about it?
Maybe, what do you think is its best feature? And
you find it easy to use.
Right. And if you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, volunteer toolkit, it's okay to say that too, because then we can make sure that we explain it a little bit more, or at least reach out and let you know a little bit more about it personally. So the volunteer toolkit is it's new, it's a digital planning tool that gives you resources and program content to get your year going and started and planned out. It keeps things running smoothly, and it is fully customizable. So you can load it with a journey book or a badge year, and it'll populate all your meetings for you with an agenda that you can change. So you don't have to be tied to exactly what they're telling you to do, but it sure does make it easier.
So, Kim, we do have a few responses.
Great. Let's hear it.
Terry states that, she and her daughter Kelly just took over a troop. So this is all new to them. And I think that's so exciting, working with your daughter. Mm-hmm. How fun. I hope that will be down the road for me. Sherry Jones said, she utilizes it frequently. And Lakeisha said she loves her toolkit. The best feature is seeing her plans unfold.
Nice.
Sherry would like to know how you can download the app. Mm-hmm. And although it is, called a web app, it's really not. It's not like an app that you would get, from the App Store. So, Kim,
yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I can. Basically,
maybe you can pull it up if you need to.
Sure. It's a website. So if you have like an iPhone, you would go to Safari and just type in gsneo.org. It's mobile friendly. So you'll get the mobile version of the website, and you would click into the toolkit just like you do online, and everything will come up. You can really do just about everything that you can do on your computer on your phone, and so that makes it really nice to be on the go. So really great stuff, and I really am glad to hear that Lakeisha's loving it, and I hope that everyone else gets involved with that soon. And parent, you can keep in communication with the parents through the toolkit as well, because once your plan is, once the day is plotted out for your troop meeting, by the touch of a button, you can email that agenda to all of your families, and that will allow them to know what you're working on at that meeting, how they might be helpful to you, and if for some reason their daughter had to miss the meeting, they'd know what to do to help her catch up. So that's really helpful too. You can also manage your troop finances there, and you can access your roster, and you can track the girls' achievements and attendance. So who wouldn't want that resource? I think it's fantastic.
And another exciting thing, Kim, is we're going to be launching some VTK trainings in the next few weeks.
That's right.
So, there are going to be like 8 of them across the GSNEO footprint. So we're getting those dates, and, go to the events calendar, and you can probably just do a search for VTK, and the classes should pop up. I think there are, 2 virtual?
There's 2 virtual sessions, and then there's 6 in-person sessions at each of the service centers and a couple of our satellite offices. And so all volunteers will be invited to come for about an hour, and we'll have other volunteers there kind of leading a presentation on how to use the toolkit, best practices, and all the great things that it does. And it really is for girls that are daisies, brownies, and juniors. So pack up your car, join us on those nights. These are all happening before the end of February. And like Barb said, you can find the exact dates and times and locations at gsneo.org on the events calendar by searching VTK. So I hope to see you there. I really do. As we're moving from the toolkit just to talk about engaging families in some different kind of ways, events and activities are a really great way to build a strong connection with your families, especially events that draw the family directly into the fun. So we have a lot of different things offered in that event calendar. You can find those in the same place. And even when you're in the volunteer toolkit, you can add council activities or community activities right to your troops calendar on the VTK from the toolkit. So many things happen at the local level and also at the big council level for families to get involved in. And just because a troop leader can't go to something doesn't mean your family still can't go. And we should promote that and let them know that, you know, I'm not available that day, but you can certainly take your own daughter. This is open to your daughter whether or not I am available to go as the troop leader. So just something to keep in mind. The other thing that I would say is really, really, really important is to be sure to always recognize your parent volunteers, either with a public thank you, a certificate of appreciation, or a thank you note. And if you're sending an email thank you, you might want to CC the other parents so that they can see that this volunteer is being thanked, you know, for their contribution to the troop. I think that that's a really important fact to not leave out. All right. Let's just recap real quick. We're nearing the end of our call here. And I just want to kind of real quick go over the things that we talked about. So remember, make families part of the process. Uber important. Also, keep communication open. Use the toolkit and the resources that are in there for you to do that. Assign volunteer roles. Make sure your families are going in and they're choosing those roles. Now, you might be, maybe you already had a couple meetings. Maybe you started meeting at the beginning of the school year and now it's the middle of the year, kind of, and you're like, this is weird. You know, how am I going to start making my families get involved now? But you know what? Here's what you do. You just let your families know that if everyone can pick up their daughters a couple minutes early, we're going to have a quick parent meeting, about 10 minutes, you know, and just bring those parents together and say, you know what, I'm really enjoying being your daughter's leader. This experience has really, you know, touched my life. And thank you all for, you know, whatever, XYZ, whatever they've done, however they've helped you so far. And then to say, you know, it really occurred to me after I went to this training at the Girl Scouts that we could probably do more to work together, you know, and the council office in the training suggested that I mentioned all the different ways for families to get involved. And I'd really love it if everybody would kind of step up into some of these roles so we can really build these memories and experiences together as a, well, I love the way Lakeisha said it here, as a family. You know, she said she views her troop as a family, and I love that. So, you know, it's never too late to start, but it's never too early to start either. So, you know, we want to get those expectations set as soon as possible. And then also invite them to do specific things, you know, give them a job so that they're busy at the meeting. And if you don't, they're either going to sit in the back and talk, or they're just going to help their own daughter with whatever it is you're doing. If you see that kind of stuff happening, then you got to think to yourself, I need to give them a job. I need to put them to work. I know one of the things that my daughter just did at a meeting or two ago was, well, the parents were sitting on the sidelines kind of chit-chatting. She took the craft box over and she said, would you guys mind organizing this for me? It's really quite a mess and I just never get to it. And they loved it. I mean, it was the most organized craft box I ever saw in my life. So just remember, give people specific things to do. It's always helpful. And then always show appreciation. Any other thoughts on that, Barb?
You know, as far as always showing appreciation, another way we can do that is by nominating your parents for the any of the appreciation, some of our national or our council awards. And that you can go to volunteer recognition on the website. And, you know, each year we hold a very nice luncheon and recognize our volunteers. So,
yeah, nomination. I think the cutoff this year for nominations is February 3rd?
3rd.
3rd, okay.
Yeah.
So you can go to the website, gsneo.org, go to the volunteer page and nominate. You can nominate there's several awards that you can nominate people for, and most of them need letters of endorsement, so you can get together as a team and write some of those up. It definitely goes a long way. And so, we're so glad that you were able to join us today, and we hope that you've registered for actually the upcoming chats. Technically, if you registered today, you were automatically registered for all of the chats. That doesn't obligate you in any way, but it does make it convenient for you because you're already signed up. And the next one is going to be on Wednesday, February 10th. Again, at 6 o'clock. We also offer a noon option in case that's ever more convenient. And every month there's a different topic and an opportunity to share best practices and dispel myths and get support. So we're always looking for topics. I know this morning somebody suggested that maybe we can do, getting to know your resources as a topic for next month, because they were having some trouble finding things on the website. And we thought we could probably help with that. So I think that would be a great topic, but if you have any others, please let us know. And are there any other questions at this time, Barb? Do you see anything there in the chat log, or anything you might want to add before we end our call tonight?
The last question we have is from Lakeisha. She's asking, is there a tool to communicate with other troops, especially to help new leaders along?
Oh, okay. Well, I think that we don't necessarily have like a closed group, but we do have our council Facebook group and our council Twitter group, and there's a whole lot of communication that goes on there. So I would definitely encourage you to join those pages. It's almost like your own personal internet, because I swear if you throw a question out there, you're going to get 10 people to answer it. Very, very helpful.
And a lot of our service units, make sure you're connected with your service unit. And a lot of those, the service units have their own service unit Facebook page. So make sure you're communicating through there. That's a great way to find sister troops with your, in your age group, or even older sister troops than that.
Awesome. I have just a quick favor to ask before we wrap up for tonight, and that is I have a question, and if everybody can just take a moment and answer this question in the question log. What is one thing you heard tonight that, it made it worth calling in? Did you hear anything on the call tonight that maybe stuck with you? You're giving it a second thought. Maybe you found it helpful, or, anything of that nature. If you could just put a note in there, that would really help us to know how to best make sure that we're giving you what you need when you call into these calls. I think Barb might be typing in the answer to the Facebook question, but the GSNEO Facebook page, if you search for GSNEO or the Girl Scouts in Northeast Ohio on Facebook, you'll find us there for sure. All right. Well, I do want to thank.
Or
go ahead.
Or they can go to the website, and there'll be the Facebook logo right on the website.
Oh yeah. That might be easier actually for a lot of people.
That might be easier.
Yeah. So we want to really just thank everybody for your time tonight and for all that you do for Girl Scouts. We really appreciate you, and we're so excited to hear the stories and see how your year goes, and we're really looking forward to hearing from you. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Stay warm, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a great night, everybody.